Everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 17, Episode 13. Here at this channel, we do a different type of therapeutic review. We get a little curious. We get curious about what's happening internally for these couples. So we use a model, internal family systems, right, to really try to understand what's happening, learn a little bit about relationships, and potentially learn a little bit about ourselves. If you are returning, welcome back. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started. First, we have Cameron and Claire. And there's not much for this couple, as Cameron is getting ready for having his operation, and Claire is trying to navigate still, like, how do I support him? How do I show up for him? And so she asked, Cameron spoke for really not needing, he said, I don't see a need to call Claire at this time. And what I hear in that is, which again, I don't know for sure, but what I hear is that he is in a space where he's really trying to protect himself for his health reasons, for his emotional safety, like all of that. Having her close, I feel, potentially may be too harmful for him for multiple reasons. And I'm also hearing him trying to protect her as well. So she said that he told her that he really doesn't need her to be present for the surgery, and she said that makes sense, and so she is just staying in contact with him and supporting him. She also discussed with the girls as their get together and having fun by the pool that she's really just trying to navigate what to do. The girls really praised her for being there and being with Cameron through all of this while they're going through the separation. She said, she just didn't understand or know that when she said through sickness and health that was going to be a real obstacle. And yeah, you don't know at the time you say those vows what could come down, right? And so they're here now, and so she's saying, I just want to be able to support him and also not hurt him any more than I already have. And so we do hear that part of her that's carrying the guilt or even responsibility for potentially, we don't know, but from this part of her, its view of her in the situation, it feels like she has played a role in where he is right now and is carrying that. So that's still up, and hoping again that she takes care of that part, really gets to know that part of her and see what it needs from her, because who knows who's here. It's hard sometimes when we're feeling feelings. We don't know why we're feeling them, what's coming up for us. And it's really about us getting curious about what's happening internally to really know and understand what's really here. Next, we have Chloe and Michael. And there's not much for this couple as well, as they're still like in preparation mode for their wedding. She is getting her nails done. She's talking about getting her bridesmaids dresses and everything situated, and how she's getting excited. She's really getting excited about who she's going to marry. Michael, he's being really intentional and about how he's showing up in this process. As always, that seems to be a part of who Michael is. He has this part of him that really thinks about really being authentic and true to himself in the moment and showing up in a way that feels true to him, that feels like very accurate. And so there's a part of Michael that, of course, wanted to share this with the cast members and invited them to the wedding. Becca and Austin won't be able to be there, but Emily spoke for Brennan and said they will be there. It's interesting that he is still wearing the crown, because he said that he was going to throw it away or give it away. I don't know how he was going to dispose of it, but he did say that this was the last go of it, and he's going to release it after this because he wants to again set his marriage off on a good note. He did speak for a part of him that is concerned that he's going to have to share with her that this is his second go around, and wondering how that's going to land for her, what's going to come up for her around that. And the cast members really gave him a lot of encouragement, a lot of positive energy. They had parts of them, they're like, it's going to be great, it's going to be great, it's going to be great, it's going to be great. And those are all well-intentioned parts, and at the same time, we don't know it's going to be great. We hope it's going to be great. We are hoping for the best. We're wishing for the best. And at the same time, we don't know. Um, Austin said, he has a strong feeling about Michael and who he is and feels like things are going to be great. They also said that they back him up. The girl said, hey, if she comes to us and has some questions, we will definitely let her know, how you handle that situation, where you are, and that you're, a stand-up guy. And so that I'm imagining that has to sit well with Michael, knowing that he has that support. And at the same time, right, we still don't know. We don't know how things are going to go. He named that the day before that he is more anxious than he was before, which makes so much sense. Before, he said he had no clue that that would happen, not even a thought that that would happen. Now, what I imagine is happening is that that's all he's thinking may happen, right? He's hoping, a part of him hopes that she's going to say I do, go through with the process, and there's a part of him that's like, it's going to happen again, which is just our mind, our brain doing what it's supposed to do. Protect Michael from the same thing happening again. So it may be saying, hey, don't do this. Don't do this. You already know what's going to happen. She's going to see you. She's not going to like what she sees, and she's going to walk. And so Michael's job through this space is just navigating, listening to those parts of him, and really doing to what he feels is best for him. And we see, of course, that he is at least getting ready for the wedding. In the previews, we see that he has a pink tux. And so wouldn't it have been nice if she had that blush, wedding gown with his pink tux? That's me and my 2 cents. But you could tell a part of me has a preference for the blush gown that she picked first. But we see that her bridesmaids are wearing pink, so it's fine. The pink is still in the building. So we shall see how it goes next episode regarding their wedding celebration. Will there be a connection? Will she go through with it? Will he go through with it? We shall see. Next, we have Becca and Austin. And, they are trying to still chug along in the intimacy department. Austin takes Becca to this plant terrarium, I guess, place where they make these little miniature sanctuaries for plants. And they have these little figurines that are in different positions and exploring physical intimacy. And so they're putting them in this plant terrarium. I guess it's a really cool, creative idea. As he said, since they both like plants, and he's trying to really engage the part of Becca that wants to move things forward and is really kind of getting fatigued at where they are. And so they are having banter. They're talking about their history and physical intimacy department, their preferences. Both of them said that they really like to do where they try to meet their partner where they are and lean into their preferences. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. They talked about the frequency, how often they would like it to be, and exploring have you ever done it outside, and different activities that can happen during physical intimacy, which is, this conversation is nice. You can see that they are doing it in a very humorous way, and that's just seems to be a huge part of definitely Austin when it comes to this situation, because we know a part of him is very uncomfortable, and they even named that during their cucumber and interview in the bed, right, about how he feels uncomfortable talking about physical intimacy on national television, which makes complete sense. And Becca named that them having these conversations is giving her hope. A part of her has hope because it is still, right, it's still being addressed, it's still being seen as a priority, and not something that's going towards the back burner. Becca shared with the girls that, she wants their intimacy to be further along than what it is, and at the same time, she's much further along than they are. So that was stated. So she's finding the humor in that as well. Part of her is finding the humor. And Austin stated that with Brennan, when he was speaking with him, that the fact that this keeps becoming an issue and it keeps being the focal point of many conversations, that is, the pressure is continually to grow, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And he said it's a part of him has a problem with that, which makes a lot of sense. He's already stated that this is something that he just moves at a slower pace for. We also saw last episode, right, that he's still in the interviewing process. A part of him is still like, is Becca the person that I want to say yes to, right? Like, my yes at the wedding day was, or at the ceremony was like, yes to this process. But my yes, maybe at decision day, is like me saying, yes, I want to stay married and I want to be in this. And so he's really trying to see, yeah, is this going to last? Is this going to be someone who I want to join with? And Becca is, she's in a different space. But the fact that this keeps being an issue, it does make things get bigger, and it puts a lot of pressure on Austin to show up in a way that will calm Becca. And so it's like, is it him trying to please her, or is it him doing this because it's something he wants to do? And the lines are getting blurred for Austin, which is a good sign. For me, it's a good sign because he is in a space where he's at least talking about it, talking about the frustration, voicing his feelings, and not saying that he's shutting down on it. He's just saying, ooh, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot, and I want to honor her. I also want to, like, honor how I'm feeling. So it's a lot to navigate. And so they're meeting with Dr. Pia after they had their little, interrogation with the cucumber. And Dr. Pia was asking, how things are going in the physical intimacy department, or even just intimacy. And Austin named that things are moving slow. He also named that it was on his end. So I feel like that's a great sign of where they are. Right? He's owning it up. Like, hey, it's me. I'm not that I'm the problem, but I'm the piece, the factor, a huge piece of the puzzle. I won't say that he's the problem, because there could be definitely reasons why, valid reasons, and that's what we're hearing again, that there's so much pressure that's being put on it that it's like, the word he used is tainting any actions or any movement that he could make towards her, because it's like, am I doing this just to please her? Just to say, okay, here we go, I did something for you. Or is it because it's something he really wants to do? And so they talked about taking the pressure off, and they talked about doing things that are building the intimacy, but maybe not, of course, going to lead to physical intimacy, but just connecting. Becca did state about the impact of this, how it's like, ooh, I've never experienced this before, and it is making me wonder if he desires me. She said, because I feel like he's attractive and I want to act on those things. He's saying that he does find me attractive, but he doesn't want to. So a part of her is like, I'm confused. And it's challenging because when people's systems are not the same, when I'm saying systems, like, we have different parts of us that respond to different ways. And so for her, she has this part of her that she's like, oh, I think you're hot. I want to touch you. And he's like, oh, I think you're hot. I want to get to know you better to decide if I want to touch you. And that's different. These are two different ways. Neither of them are wrong. They're just their ways of connecting. And part of her is making meaning about the fact that things are moving so slow, which is what happens. That's what our parts do. They make meaning about things that happen. We're like, oh, someone's doing that. Well, that means this. And that's what we're doing even watching this show. People's parts have made a lot of conclusions about why Austin isn't moving forward to physical intimacy with her. They're questioning a lot of things about him, not really knowing him, not knowing the situation, not knowing anything. And so that is what we do. That is what we do as humans. We have parts of us that make meaning about people's behavior. Why? To protect us. To protect us. And so they do this blindfold exercise, which reminds me of Shaq and Kirsten last season. But they did the blindfold exercise, and they started to, like, asking different questions about intimacy and learning more about their preferences. And Austin later to created like this romantic evening for them with rose petals and candles and little Polaroid pictures of them, and had some like food that they could eat, like some strawberries and things like that. And they had a makeout session. Now, they did say at the after party, because there was a heated little moment between Emily and Austin. And Emily was stating that Becca has made attempts to be physically intimate with Austin, and he rejected her. And that really had a huge impact on her, which I imagine it would, of course. And she was giving Austin a hard time, saying that he is not trying hard enough. That he only really did that scene right because it was produced and not something he wanted to do. And after that scene ended, like, that's it. Like, that's all they did. And I hear her concerns for Becca. I also feel like this intensity and this big energy is really about her and Brennan and where they are and how frustrated she is. And it makes sense that she's frustrated. And so Austin was like, whoa, why am I getting this energy? You could see him during the after party. He was so confused and not really understanding why Emily was coming, like a part of her was coming at him. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me why this part of her was up and like wanted to say, but you do this to her and you do that to her. You need to treat her right, right? Which is something a part of her probably really wants to say to Brennan. So it makes perfect sense. It pains me a little bit to see or to know that Becca was reaching in to lean into, connect with Austin, and he moved back from her. And that's something that they can work out between themselves as well. It seems like even though both of them use humor to navigate some heavy stuff at times, that they are still talking about it. They're still talking about it. The hope is that the part of them that is using humor to navigate a situation that's uncomfortable and awkward for both of them, that they also have it from a place that's authentic and true to how they're feeling as well. And we saw that happen in their session with Dr. Pia, and I hope that it continues to happen even without Dr. Pia. But, with Dr. Pia being there, there's a different level of safety than them having this conversation with themselves, by themselves, because, what could come up, and they might get, very emotional about this and show up in a way that they don't want to. And I really see that both of them have parts of them that are trying not to hurt each other through this process too. So we shall see. Becca also named that she said 92% of the time, which I thought was an interesting number, but she said 92% of the time she's in the front seat with initiating physical connection. And she's in the passenger seat, and this is awkward for her. So she's trying to navigate this uncomfortable awkwardness that's happening and in allowing him to take the lead. And so she's trusting. That's a lot happening in there. And so I'm giving her a lot of credit for doing that. It takes a lot to sit on the passenger seat when you're the one that's usually pushing the go button. Now you're waiting for someone else to do it. That's like patience. That's it's so much. And then how do you take care of yourself while you're doing that? Last but not least, we have Emily and Brennan. Oh boy. Okay. So they are in a space now where they're like kind of really hashing out the situation that happened at the pool. Brennan stated that he feels better now. He's in a better space and he wants to talk about what happened last night. Emily said that she had a part of her that assumed that he wasn't about to faint, and she snapped. She snapped because he wasn't trying. She felt like he wasn't trying, and it made her feel disappointed. It made her feel bad because it's like, here we go again. You're putting up the wall. You're shutting down. There's a lack of effort there, and I'm wondering, like, this is a language she uses a lot about, like him shutting down, and how he shut down on her during the honeymoon. It's almost like it's like, oh, here we go again. Like, you opening up and then you shut down. I wonder what that feels like for her. I wonder to how it feels for her to continually like keep pushing and pressing and moving forward towards him, and then him keep like putting down the wall every time something happens that he's not comfortable with, or he responds in a way that is protective. Dr. Pia uses the word defensive. Defensive has a lot of, like, it's a weighted word because there's like judgment in that. So protective is the word I use, because he's protecting himself in whatever way, whether it's a way that's harming Emily, which it is, right? Naming that he's protecting himself. And they are trying to have a reset, right? So they're trying to have a reset. And she said his feelings made her feel bad. It just made her feel bad. I want to know more about the bad, because bad really isn't a feeling word. Um, I want to know more. Or what is it making her feel? Like rejected? Is it making her feel alone when he is protective and pulls the wall down? What is it? What is it making her feel? The word she uses bad, so we don't know. But Brennan said that he understands he has a lack of effort and that he's trying to do right. He said he realizes he messed up, and he said, I'm not trying to hurt you. Yeah, I feel like that in that moment, that's a protective response, right? In that moment, that's a protective response. And so, um, I'm not trying to hurt you. Yeah, you're not trying, but you are. So he apologizes. He owns it. And apologies is a challenging space, right? We've been told a lot about apologies, and learn like, oh, when you mess up, you say I'm sorry. And sometimes apologies and isn't the whole piece. And you have to also see too, is Brennan apologizing so he doesn't feel bad about it, or is he apologizing because he wants to do better? And there's a lot of reasons why people apologize. He said that he knows he needs to do better. He said he knows he needs to do better, and he needs to work on saying things in a better way in his delivery, and he wants to be better at that. Emily says she appreciates the apology, and at the same time, she's like, it doesn't mean anything if you act the same way. And that's the difference. We've heard this before, which is, there's a lot of truth in it, that the real apology is changed behavior. Yes. So the real apology, or when you're really trying to repair and build trust, like Brennan named later on in the episode, that you're working to repair. And that's Emily stating like what she wants to see from him, what Brennan is willing to do, right? What he's willing to do, and him actually making the effort to do. And that's what Emily's looking for. It's a challenge because we hear from Emily at the after party and from others, right? I think all of the women except for Becca said that Brennan does not act the same way on camera as he does off camera, and that he does treat Emily in a way that is not kind. So I don't think that it's fair to not put that and add that into the consideration of how this relationship is and how Emily is showing up in this way, right? If she's getting two different versions of Brennan, and she's feeling restricted about what she can say and what she can't say, and she's trying and she's giving a lot of effort, like that's a lot of whiplash and energy, like, and then you got the shutdown lever coming, like it's that's a lot for Emily to take. So I just want to name that. That's a lot for her. And so Dr. Pepper gave them this exercise to write a letter to their inner child, which I'm like, okay, that's a step in the right direction. And Emily writes a letter to her high school self, who was like really into sports, and she even named later, like, there was like competitive sports, like they were traveling, they had 3 games a week, she was the captain of the team, and she really worked really hard. So like this was a huge part of her life, and her dad was like pushing her constantly and yelling at her and trying to motivate her by yelling at her, which is unfortunately a way that some parents do have, like, that's part of them that's like, do better, and thinking that's going to help their child do better. And so Emily talked about how hard that was for her, but then she also affirmed, right? She affirmed her younger self, telling her how great she is, and also that she named her dad's intentions under that behavior. Yes, that's a harm. What he did was harmful, and it hurt us, and it really caused a lot of pain in our relationship, made us not like soccer anymore. And at the same time, dad was really trying to encourage us. So she was trying to help her resolve some of that hurt in the letter. Brennan has this part of him that he was naming as he was reading his letter, talking about how he was always like in the future, planning for the future. I really didn't feel like he had a childhood. That's what I sense as he's like talking about it. He said that he was always like concerned about risk and planning for the future, and that his parents really had a funny way of showing that they love him. And at the end of the day, that they're always going to be there for him. Right. So I want to know more. It definitely sounds like there are parts of him that carry a lot of anxiety about the future. When our minds, we have parts of us that are future focused, that there's a lot of anxiety in that because we can't control the future. And so we're like, ooh, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And that's a lot. That's a lot to be holding, in his system. And so it kind of gives us a little bit of what he's holding because he's so tight-lipped. We don't know much. So even him saying his parents have a funny way of showing that they love him, I wonder what that means. I really wonder what that means for him, what that like now, and what that means for him, his younger self. His parents talked about his temper, so I'm wondering how he expressed his emotions and his feelings towards them. I have a lot of just wondering around that. Emily asked him who he leaned to for advice, and he shared his friend's dad, who was a real estate agent. He's at 13 when other kids were like playing and doing their own thing. He was being with him and actually working and learning about life, and he really wishes that he didn't try to grow up so fast, that he just allowed himself to be a kid. So it just makes me wonder, like, okay, what type of relationship did he have with his dad that his 13-year-old self was like, we need to know what to do. Oftentimes, from our childlike view, we'll look at our parents and be like, oh, they don't know. It's obvious they don't know how to be an adult or to take care of themselves. I need to hear from another person who I see knows what they're doing and get the information from them. I don't know if that was his experience, but that's usually, what I've witnessed people seeing, like from their childlike view, seeing their parents not have it together and saying, okay, I need to connect with somebody who does. And so he's resourceful. I give him that. That's a strength. He's resourceful. He's like, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. So it's reading, right? He's got these parts of him that are very meticulous about money. He's got parts of him who are, working really hard and diligently. So I wonder, what his upbringing was like. I just wonder even more now with all of this. All this concealing of information too. Someone named in the comments around the dynamic of how a family functions when there's addiction. There's often secrets as a part of how the family really functions and protects what's happening in the house. And it's a very common way that families function, especially when there's addiction in the home, that we just don't talk about it. It's a secret. We make like everything's fine, and it really seems like that's how Brennan is really trying to navigate this situation as well. Like there's parts of him that are just like, hey, we don't focus on the negative, we don't focus on the past, we just keep moving towards the future and focusing on things that are going well. As Brennan and Austin were connecting, he shared that they're in a good space and that they're doing this reset, and it's in a much better space because there's not so much pressure on him. Emily said that it's hard for her because they keep having these intense conversations and it keeps like bringing up these big reactions. And Claire named like, both of you seem to be reactive, and that's why it's hard. And Emily said, well, I don't know. It seems like we both have two different communication styles. What I've noticed is that either Brennan is quiet or there's that protective communication, whether it's with some force. So either it's like, we're not going to talk about it, or this is what I want to say. Like those are the two types of communication that Brennan has available in his system while Emily, she also has this part of her that says everything's fine, which I wonder where that is coming from. This one that is agreeable, right? So she named that with their session later on with Dr. Pia, how she has this part of her that goes along to keep things moving afloat. And she named like, oh, but I also stick up for myself. So she has this part of her that is also coming from a place that's um, either saying it indirectly or coming from a place that is using like aggressive communication, similar to Brennan style. And so it is challenging because they don't feel safe enough to communicate vulnerably with each other. Brennan said something that was pretty shocking. He said that, they're going day by day because he feels like that's, again, what they need to do and taking the pressure off and just being friends. He said because if that wasn't the case, he was just going to get a divorce. And I was like, interesting. That's two really polarizing responses, divorce or friends in a marriage. So yeah, because he's not giving us a lot of information, I just have a lot of wondering around that. And we get more information from the friend, Richie. Brennan's friend, Richie, was holding him accountable, was being very honest and very truthful with him about how his friend shows up. And he said that when you have one thing that you don't like about a person, that's the one thing you focus on. And then the relationship and the connection go by the wayside. I said, oh, that's exactly what happened to Emily. That's exactly what happened in their honeymoon. And that's where they've been since. Like that is like this thing is not okay. And so I'm wondering, right? I'm wondering how young that part is because it seems like a really young part of him that's not considering the full picture. He does have this part of him that talks about Emily in a way that is very endearing. Like, oh, she's the best person I ever met. She's the sweetest person. She's so kind. She's so caring. And I wonder about that part too, because I'm like, where was that when they were with Dr. Pepper last week? And she was like, name 5 qualities you like about her. And he was like, crickets. So it's interesting how he talks about her in different spaces in different ways. It's like I'm wondering what happens internally for him that comes out that way. He said that, hey, I'm trying. I take her out to lunch. We give hugs. We go out to dinner. And his friend said, yeah, I go out to lunch with my friends too. That doesn't mean I'm trying to build a romantic relationship with them. I said, bars. Um, which, I mean, that's facts. He said, if you really want to do this, it's about actions. It's about putting forth some action and like flirting with her, words of affirmation, asking how her day is, leaning in, touching. That's really when you're trying to build a romantic connection. And he said, don't make these things chores. Don't make these things chores. Really lean into it. And he's like, hey, do you feel like you're doing things perfect? Like you don't have anything to work on? And Brennan's like, well, yeah, I know I'm not doing things perfect, and he feels stuck right now. That they're going to lean in and talk about more serious things to really try to get to connect with each other. And his friend was glad to hear that they're, going to be moving closer to each other and sharing more serious and vulnerable things with each other to help build a connection. And Brennan says that he's really hoping that the romantic feelings start to come. And I have a part of me that wonders if that's really true. And because it's not clear to me that Brennan really wants to be in this relationship or that he's working to be in it. I see that he's in it, but I'm like, is he in it for the 8 weeks, or is he in it like he's really building to make a relationship for the future? Later in the episode, Brennan and Emily are playing soccer together. They're enjoying themselves. Emily's beating him. And you can tell, like, she was serious. She was a serious soccer player. Her footwork, I said, okay, all right now. And she talked about that, as I stated before, like how competitive it was and how she was really pushed a lot. And Brennan said a part of him wishes that he would have had that. Wishes he would have had the coaching and pushing because he feel like he would have maybe made it further in his athletics than he did. Emily stated that it was hard for her to think that she was good at something, because she was getting yelled at and she was getting all this praise. So it was really hard for her, to navigate all of that. And Brennan said that he's not surprised at all that she was the captain, because she's a hard worker, she's strong, she's charismatic, she's caring, she's a good leader. And you saw this smile on Emily's face, and like, oh, she's getting affirmed. I think this is maybe the first time I've really seen Brennan be intentionally affirmative of Emily. And I wonder about this. Right? I really wonder about this. Is this something he's genuinely feeling in the moment? Is this just for the cameras? Because we have to consider this with what's being reported about how he kind of flips the switch once the cameras are off. Then Brennan is a different Brennan. And is this genuine? I have part of me that's like, well, I don't know. I don't know. Emily said, well, she said it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work, but I don't give up. I don't give up on my people. I don't give up on my team. And I feel like this is another example of like her indirectly communicating, like, I'm not a person who gives up. I'm not going to give up on us. And I wonder how that landed on Brennan. I wonder if he sees that, if he felt that. It's not clear, right? It's not clear for sure. I think he had some type of response, but, is it really sinking in of what she was really trying to communicate with him at this time? So they have a session with Dr. Pia, and a lot happened. What happened? So let's get started. So Dr. Pia said, okay, so I'm hearing that a lot happened, a lot didn't happen since we've met last. So I just want to check in to see how you're doing. And Brennan said, hey, we got a plan now. We've done our reset. There's a lot less pressure involved. So we're in good space. And then Emily gives her update, and she's like, well, since the last visit, I feel like that's when things went backwards, and he didn't really agree with your recommendations. And so he was like focusing on like the negatives, saying that he didn't want to do the touching, that he just wanted to do the hugs because he felt like that was awkward. And Dr. Pia said, well, do you feel like that's productive to talk about now? And Brennan was like, no, I don't, because we had a good day. And he feels like things are moving forward and we don't need to dwell on the past like we agreed. This is what I feel is a method, right, that he's using. There's a part of him that really wants to manage this conversation. There's a part of him that wants to manage the conversation and really not have the truth come out about how he is treating her off camera. That's what I feel. That's what I sense, right? And it's interesting. It's really interesting because he talks about his parents in a way that isn't always like affirming, like the best. And in this way, right? If what we're saying is true, right? If what we're saying is true, that there's this pattern of, addiction and secrets, and you don't talk about what's in this house. It's very similar is happening in this session where he, even though he has these really strong feelings about his parents, he's turning into his parent in this moment by restricting what Emily speaks for and not allowing her to have her say. And so she names how it's challenging. Like, she doesn't always feel safe to say the things, and that things are his rules. Like, she's agreeing to things just to keep the peace, but it's not really what she's feeling and really what she wants to do. And Brennan is like, he's so confused about this. And he may not be, like, honestly, he may not be aware that Emily's got all this stuff happening internally for her, but it's the truth, right? It's the truth. Just because he's not aware of it doesn't mean that it's not a truth for her. And so Brennan said hearing that is like really frustrating to him because he offered it and she agreed. Well, he doesn't know that she agreed to keep the peace, right? She may have like did not want to do that. And she talked about how, it's a challenge for her to say the things that she wants to say. And Brennan again is like confused because he said, well, no, but she says that like she'll get surprised, like, oh, you took that okay. Like, I was really concerned about how you were going to take it. And Emily said, yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Right. So this is again from his lens of like oh, but I didn't respond in a way that was bad. Not acknowledging that she's carrying all this anxiety about like, ooh, how's he gonna respond? Which makes me wonder, how does he respond? That's it makes me wonder more about that. Like, how does he respond? What does it feel like for her, and what does it look like? And it's definitely a part of Brennan that he doesn't want to be seen. So it's not a part of him that he likes or is wanting people to know that is here. You know, he's wanting to conceal that there's some shame around that. That's why all this concealing is happening. And so then Dr. Pia said, okay, well, do you know why Brennan didn't do the touching exercise? And Emily said, because he doesn't want to. She said, well, do you want to know why he doesn't want to? Do you want to ask him? And then Brennan has this sigh. And so then Dr. P is like, tell me what's happening. Tell me what's happening. What's going on? Dr. Pia referred to Brennan's behavior like he's giving her pushback and defensive. And that's because that's the impact of his behavior on her, right? She's getting resistance. That's a lot of the language that some therapists can use. And really, it's not about resistance or pushback. It's about protection. There's something there. And so she does like lean in to understand, like, okay, tell me why you are showing up in this way, right? What do you need? What are you hoping for? What hasn't happened? And they talked about, right, how to build trust. How his relationships, his friendships, like, do they hold him accountable? How can Emily communicate to you in a way that's not going to get this protective response from you, in a way that you will hear her? And he said, yeah, I just want her to like acknowledge this is what we agreed upon, and then tell me when something's different, and talk about the full picture, right? So he wants Emily to talk about the things that are going well. I get it. But in reference to, because what's still not being spoken for is that when Brandon's off camera, he's a different person. And so, like, with that adding the context into the into this session, then we're like, oh, okay. You're wanting to get credit for something that you're only doing on camera. Well, how that lands on Emily is like, no. No, we need to, she said, I just want to be honest. And then she did like this eye roll that like had a lot of energy in it, which makes sense because there's frustration. She's like, I just want to be honest. And a part of her also too sees Dr. Pia as an ally because she sees that she holds Brennan accountable. Like, Dr. Pepper doesn't really give Brennan a lot of smoke. She didn't give him a lot of pushback, as Dr. Pia said, all right, using that language, but she didn't hold him to task when he didn't have words to affirm Emily. Like, she didn't lean into that. Usually Dr. Pepper does kind of do that, but she didn't do that in this moment. She's like, Emily said, I have an ally in Dr. Pia, so I'm going to hold you. I'm going to say the things. I'm going to really try to be more honest because I know she's going to hold you accountable. She's going to hold you accountable. And so Emily had a part of her that was strategic, but also I imagine too, there was some like desperation in this, right? There was some desperation in like, hey, this guy, right, wants me to act like everything's okay, but it's not okay. And then he wants to get credit for doing things on camera to present that everything's okay when it's not okay. I think that's too why Emily had this part of her that was really protective as well on the after party. And Keisha knew how to even handle it in the moment, saying like, hey, I'm not attacking you. I'm not, right? I'm not coming at you in a way that is saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to get to understand why what's happening is happening. So there's a lot. And so Dr. Pia named that they're both going through a parallel process, right? Meaning they are all both experiencing this through their lens of perception, which is going to cause the protection that they're both seeing here. Dr. Pia was like, how can we continue to work towards a friendship? What do you need from each other? What needs to continue to happen? And at the same time, I feel like without Emily stating that Brennan is acting like a completely different person or treats her badly, off camera, then, you know, like this conversation about a friendship and how to come together and be honest and have communication and respect and all of that, you know, that goes out the window because off camera there's no respect. That's what we're hearing, you know. And so this isn't okay, you know, for Emily to like be in these sessions and try to act like things are okay when they're not, you know. A part of me is very concerned about her. A part of me is concerned about, yeah, where this relationship is going to go, because there's a lot of things on camera that just don't seem to be very genuine, especially with, again, multiple people now, like Emily saying it, that it's still happening, like this is still happening, that he is not treating her well off camera. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts about how you feel about how this session went. How you feel about this dynamic between Brennan and Emily. Tell me your thoughts about Austin and Becca. How do you feel this relationship or this wedding is going to go with Michael and Chloe? And if you have any thoughts about Cameron and Claire, but I feel like, you know, their relationship has come to a space where I feel like it's going to be. And we shall see, right? So if you're still with us, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered.